Hello, welcome to Flow Tricks. Today I want to talk about same direction handrolls. Now you're probably used to opposite direction handrolls. The most common is the split opposite handrolls. Very common, very popular with nunchakers. What you're thinking about is one chuck is going clockwise and the other is going counterclockwise. We haven't really covered same direction though, where they're both going clockwise or they're both going counterclockwise. There's a lot of really great things you can do from there. But we first want to start working on, well, how do you initiate this kind of motion? Whoosh. So we're doing a very similar type of motion to this, except for now they're going the same direction, but it requires a slightly different dynamic. So let's get started. So the prerequisite, you don't have to know split opposite handrolls, although it helps to understand the concept. If you look at it without the handrolls, essentially you're just kind of doing this swing by the hips, swing by the shoulder things, or if we talked about the quadrant series, we're basically going from the shoulder to the hip, from the shoulder to the hip. The same thing's going to happen when we go in the same direction. It's going to go from shoulder to hip. So we're shoulder to hip in the same way, except for they're both going in the same direction. Now when we first start out, I like to do it at the same time, but the very beginning part of this motion is to use one chuck and just to be able to get it by your hip like this. So with my right hand in front of me, it is going clockwise, and then it goes behind me in the same direction, so you don't change directions. What you're going to notice is, as I go behind, my wrist kind of bends backwards like this, so there's like this duck hand that happens here. So you want to be able to go in front of you and behind you, and you can kind of see how my wrist leads with this duck hand kind of motion. So start with your hand in front, and then as it goes behind, really push it backwards like this. Boom. So my hand looks like that when it goes behind me. There's a reason for that. You can kind of pull your hand behind you without this, but then your hand kind of has to have the squared off motion, which makes it really, it can make it a little bit trickier where we can keep it nice and fluid and not even have to use our hands that much if we just put it in our wrists. So it's either going to be in your arms or your wrists. So what you're going to do from there is back and forth this direction. And then what you're going to think about with your left hand, you're going to stop with your right hand, you're going to go with your left hand, and you got to go the same direction. So basically, they're going this direction. Now this means when we're doing split opposite handrolls, this is easy because your right and your left hand, the thumbs are in opposing positions, meaning if we go in opposite directions, we do the same technique. But when you go in the same direction, one hand is still going to do that same technique while the other one does the exact opposite. So this one feels more like pinky leading. So when I do this motion, you're going to notice that my thumb is leading, the front of my hand leads right here, right? This is what's controlling it, and you can kind of notice that my hand kind of leads with my thumb and my pointer finger here. But when we go over here, it's the exact opposite, the pinky leads. So it's still going into the duck hand where it's just kind of going quack, quack, kind of going downwards like this. But the difference is very subtle. But what you're going to feel is as we're moving to the back of our hands, we're going to drag it down with the pinky finger first. The wrist is going to bend, it's going to pull back to in front. So pinky finger, if you look really closely, that pinky finger is leading as opposed to, it's the first thing that comes back as opposed to the other side. So remember, it's backwards. Once you get that, see if you can do them both at the same time. So we got forward, drop them back, forward, and back. That's the beginning of this motion. So start with your right hand, start with your left hand, do them both at the same time. Now, of course, we got to get it by the shoulder as well. So the next thing you're going to do is practice this one. You're going to practice, it's actually harder if you practice it one at a time, so we're not going to do it this way. What I'm going to just want you to do is just practice doing a figure eight by your shoulder without hitting your face. Now, you want to be extra careful here because your face is in the way. Really work on having clean planes. And if you're having problems, remember, up and down motion will straighten out your chuck. So if you move your hand up and down, it'll straighten out the chucks a little bit more. So if it's moving a little diagonally, you could hit your elbow or your face. So make sure if you're looking at it, it looks nice and straight. You should be making a clean circle in front of you. Now, this is going to be the exact opposite of this one, where my thumb's leading down here. When I'm up here, my pinky's leading. You can kind of see there's this rotation that happens where, here's my pinky, it leads down and then it pulls back and swings the opposite way. So here to here. Back and forth, like this. And again, if you look really slowly, you can see kind of how my pinky leads the way like this. Whoosh, whoosh, right? So we're going to go back and forth with the right hand. The cool thing about this move, y'all, is if you don't know any of these techniques, you're going to learn a lot of different varieties of techniques just by learning this, from here to this motion here where you can go up and down it. Like all of this is fantastic. So it's more than just doing this hand roll motion, but get used to this here. Whoosh, whoosh. Very similar to when you hold the chuck over your head and you do a spin with it. Oops. But this is more by the shoulder. More by the shoulder. Remember to bring it back. If I'm doing it sideways here, you're going to notice that my hand really, like my elbow leads, pulls it back, and then the pinky leads, and my elbow goes first, and then the pinky follows. So you can kind of see how my elbow swings back and forth. My elbow always goes first, and then my pinky is following it, back and forth. Okay, so from here you should be able to go this way with your right, this way with your left, this way with your right. If you can't get this far, just go about this far in the video and practice it until you can. Don't move forward and try to do all of it until you can do these little pieces. The next one is going to be your left hand. Now, remember how I said this one has the pinky leading down here? Obviously, now we've got to go the opposite way where the thumb is leading, because once we go from the hip to the shoulder, it reverses, and when we go from left to right, it reverses as well. So this time the thumb is leading. What you're going to see from here is, again, it's almost like you're scooping sand. So we're dropping it behind the head, it's scooping upwards, and then you're going to notice it's going to flip forward, and then we're just kind of scooping it down like this. And then it's going to go behind, it's going to be the same thing. So in nice and slow motion, you're going to see like this scooping motion that happens with the hand. Without it, you can really see like this downward upward push as it goes back and forth. Whoosh, whoosh. It's a lot harder to go slow motion and try to describe it than it is to do it. You might just be able to do it without all this description, but back and forth like this. Make sure you don't hit your face. If you can do it 30 times in a row, you're probably in a good spot. Now from there, we're going to start practicing combos with it. So before we go to two chucks, see if you can get it with one. So what we're going to do here is first we're going to practice just with the right hand. We're going to go from the hips, and when it's behind our back, we're going to pull it up to the shoulder. So again, we're going to do the same motion, figure eight by the hips. When we get it behind us, we're going to pull it up by the shoulder, and we're going to go back and forth. When it gets in front of us, about 9 o'clock, we're going to pull it straight down and bring it back to the hips. So up, down, up. It's almost like an elevator. Do you notice how I add a little bit of an extra? When this goes down, it's that same upward lift that we do to get behind it, but just really make sure that you add that extra twist. As soon as you hit down, it goes up. So when you first start, you're just going to do a few of these, and then you're going to pull it up. Do a few of these. When it's in the front, you're going to pull it down. And then when it's in the back, when it's behind you, you're going to pull it up. And then eventually what you're going to do is behind you, pull it up. In front of you, pull it down. Behind you, pull it up. In front of you, pull it down. See that? You notice that this has to make one beat. I'm not pulling it up immediately. I'm giving it like this little lift, and I wait just a second for the momentum to catch up, and then the moment it goes to the outside, I pull it up. And when you do that fast, you don't have to go too fast, but when you get this in fast mode, you got this motion here. Okay, now you're going to do the same thing with the left hand. Once you get that one down, you're going to go shoulder. Again, once it gets behind the shoulder, you're pulling it down towards the hip, and then you're going to drop it forward, and then the moment it goes this direction towards your body, remember these things are opposite, so because you're using your hands are going in the same direction, you have to remember everything's going opposite than with the other hand. So from here, when it's behind you, you pull it down, give it one little beat. When it's in front of you or going up towards your stomach, you pull it up. So here, behind you, pull it down, towards your stomach, in front of you, pull it up. And then all together, it's down, up, down, up, down, up. Get really comfortable with each of these elevator type movements. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do them at the same time. Now before we elevator it up and down, we're just going to try it like this first. Boom. This is what's cool about this, y'all, is all of these are so many different moves, and we're going to cover where these things go. So here. Then the next thing we're going to do, which is probably the hardest, you don't do this too often, is shoulders, front and back. Right now we're going same time. There's so many different ways to do this. And you guys, when you're done, make sure you go opposite direction. That's going to be a whole nother ballpark. I'll just explain this very shortly though. If you learn to do this in both directions, this direction and this direction, then you can do patterns of, like, for instance, I can do footwork patterns where I can do the same kind of motion, but as I turn, I reverse it and back. This will allow me to put in footwork. This is not for this drill because that's going to be for some future video, But if you learn the reverse motion, you can make 90-degree or 180-degree turns. Right now, though, we're just working on hips, and we're working on the shoulders. Hips, and you notice, okay, I kind of pulled that. I'm showing you that you do these individually, but you kind of saw what happens here. What happens here is when both hands are in the back, you pull up to the shoulders, and both hands are in the front, you pull down, whoosh, like this. And then you have this motion. Now we're kind of getting close to the move that I've been practicing. So this is the end goal, is this. Actually, the end goal is going to be to chase it like this, but we haven't gotten to the chasing part yet. Once you get this down, without chasing it yet, we're not going to chase it. That'll be a little bit later in this video. What's going to happen is the moment it starts to go up, you're going to do a front to back hand roll. So once you get comfortable with this, the moment you do the beat and you start to go up, you're going to do a front to back hand roll like that. So front to back hand roll, and then what's going to happen is, of course, we have to bring it back to the front. So front to back hand roll here, right? And then we're going to kind of swing it down. So you're going to notice, since we're in a back grip, we have this really awkward kind of, we're going to lift it up and we're going to push it down to the other side of our body. So again, here, you notice how we're kind of swinging, like this is to the right of my body, this is to my left. Kind of think of it in a big circle right now, here to here. We're kind of angling it out more, so I'm coming up 45 degrees, coming down 45 degrees. We're just going to do this just so you can visualize this a little bit easier. Front to back hand roll here, and then we're going to the other 45 degree. We're doing back to front hand rolls down. I have a problem holding an extended arm and doing 2 back to front hand rolls, so excuse me if there's any drops with this one. So front to back here, drag it over, back to front. I just have a problem with my left doing this a little bit slowly. You can do it a little bit faster. So here to here, here, swing it over. Now don't forget, the important thing is when you're going up to here, remember to swing it over and kind of push it down. We got to get these straight planes back. Here, down. Now we're getting somewhere. Once you get to that, practice that over and over again. And again, this is something I don't work on too often either, which is to say that my left hand still needs work and I haven't worked it enough. So there may be a little bit of fumbling on my part. My goal is to teach you guys this and then you take it further than I do. I'm here just to discover and to share these moves. So do it. Alright, so the next part about this now gets even more fun. Now we're going to work on split timing it. And this is where things get really interesting. Actually, no, let's not split time it yet. Let's get one more motion here. Once we get these together, they should kind of have this nice fluid motion. So they're coming up, they're coming down. Hand roll up, hand roll down. And remember, the hardest part is probably getting this nice straight transition, making sure the chucks are going nice and flat so you can get that second hand roll before it comes back down to the hip. And you can still see there's like this nice little, there's that nice little drift from the hip that we've been working on. There's that drift there, and there's that extra beat that just kind of hangs there for a second. You want to have that in order to reset the motion. The next part of this is we're going to add a step with it, like this. And the way that this step works is, as you do the front hand roll and we go over to this side, you're literally just going to take a step to this side. So you're going to take a step after the first hand roll. So we're going back to here. Here comes a hand roll, and then as we turn to the side, we drive it over here. We go to the back to front hand roll, and then remember there's that little beat that happens. There's that little beat. Well, what happens here is when we do the beat, we actually take a step with it. So the first time we do it is once we do the hand roll, the step will happen as we transition over to the second. So hand roll, step, right? Then it'll be hand roll, and then we do that little beat, step. So all at one motion will be hand roll, step, step. That was a little bit fast. Let's try that again. Hand roll, step. Can't do this slowly. Hand roll, step. And the second step is where where we're doing this like behind the back beat, just like the transition as it goes up. It's right there, right there. So one more time. Hand roll, step. Wait. Hand roll, step. Hand roll, step. And you can do this forever, and it looks great. Whoosh, whoosh. As I throw my chuck out of my hand. Told you, man. I'm butterfingers with my left today. Alright. The last part of this motion is going to be in case you're wondering too, I'm using a new prototype nunchuck, Dark Monk's nunchuck. These are for doubles. I asked them to make a super lightweight pair. I love them. The balance The balance point is a little bit lower than I'm used to, which is causing me to have some problems when I have too high of a grip as I'm behind. Like this is like in front of the balance point, which causes things like throws and certain hand rolls to just be a little bit harder for me to get to work. But at the trade-off, I've got a lot of speed and a lot of control with it, or a lot of speed, and there is a lot more control, but I just have to remember to lower my grips a little bit. I'm still working on fine-tuning the adjustments, and I may talk to Dark Monk about maybe some minor changes about trying to get that balance point a little bit higher, or maybe even making the nunchuck shorter to accommodate that, just so we can get it. But just an FYI, in case you're wondering what these chucks are, that's what they are. They're a new prototype model that I'm playing with. Feels great. I just got to get used to it, especially with these. When I go to a high grip, I have some struggles with it just because I'm used to hand rolling straight into a circular balance. A very fine balance. This one requires a little bit more adjustments, but at the same time, it's a lot faster. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to offset the timing. Before you do hand rolls, I always suggest you do it without hand rolls first. So to begin with, instead of going at the same time like this, now what's going to happen is you're going to move one hand first. So your right hand will move first, and the moment it starts to go behind you, the left hand's going to follow. So just do this. Get this motion with your dominant hand, mine's my right, get this motion with your dominant hand, and the moment it tucks back, start the next one. So how these kind of start together, this time you have to offset the time. So go back and forth like this, and it tucks back and this one pulls forward. So try it again, pulls forward. You see how the timing works? I'm waiting for this hand to go backwards, and then this one's gonna go forwards. And then I'm gonna try to keep the motion going. So as one's in front, the other's in back, and the other, and vice versa. And you can even do this if you feel comfortable, where you just stop one and you move the other like this, whoosh, until they're moving nice and smooth. For me, honestly, most people don't have to do this type of motion. It's actually harder for them to pull off than if they just focused on just keeping them moving. They're moving in opposite positions though. Whatever's in front has to go in the back and vice versa. And then once you do this motion, as the back one pulls up, you're going to notice that you can start doing this nice chasing motion too. It's the same thing. They're going the same direction. It's very similar to when we do this motion here. See how they're chasing? We don't ever, like when we're doing the split opposite hand rolls, they're always chasing each other. We don't really make them go at the same time, or it looks something more like this, which is kind of different. We have to move our arms out of the way, but basically, if they swung at the same time, they would have this kind of togetherness motion, right? Where it would almost butterfly up the center. So we want to split time this as well. So again, this goes to the front, this one begins it, and as soon as it goes to the back, this one goes to the front, and vice versa. That's how you can start it off. The moment my right hand gets to the back, we pull it up to behind the shoulder. So this actually means it'll be like front, back, right? So they're boom, 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 boom. As this is going to the back, this one's going to the shoulder, then this one's going to the back, and this one's going to the shoulder. Can you kind of see how like this motion looks here? It's still moving, but this time what's going to happen is they're going to meet up in the center, and then they're both going to pull outwards. Again, if we get this right motion, basically, you're going to notice that as one comes up, the other comes down, and then they're kind of swinging to the outside. As opposed to this one here, where what's actually happening to the split opposites is they're always crisscrossing back and forth because they're going in opposite positions. You can always see this crisscrossing that happens here and here. For same direction, they're going to crisscross on one and be on the outside for the other. What I mean again is the chucks are crisscrossing past each other one direction, so we're here, this one goes up, crisscross, and then the outside, crisscross, outside. That's going to look like the right type of motion like this. Now, how do we get hand rolls into it is another ballpark. So we're going to go back here. If you can do this, if you can get that motion, then it's time to get to the other one. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to kind of add a little bit more pizzazz. So we're going to go back to this motion, and the thing about this motion is you're going to have like this kind of movement, right? But that's not the movement that you saw me do when I was doing the hand rolls, because what I want to be able to do is add movement. So we're actually going even less than split time. We're going into more quarter time, which I barely ever talked about. But this is important to note because again, this is a legit move. Like this right here. That right there, that hand roll combination is a legit combination here, but it's not going to be the one that we're gonna do completely. What we're gonna try to do is get it even closer together so they're kind of following each other. You're gonna notice as one comes up, the other one follows, and that's the eventual goal. So with that one, as we're swinging across, this time it's going to be kind of like we're going to have them chase each other a little bit more. So with this one, again, what's going to happen now is, you know how I said how this one goes to the back and then this one goes to the front? It's going to come up even sooner. So as this one's getting ready to go to the back, this one starts to pull. So it's like this, jump, jump. You see this kind of motion? Very different than this motion, right? Where we wait for it to get to the back and then there's one always an opposite of each other. The motion that I want you to get into now is going to be where they're somewhere in between. It's somewhere in between this here where they're moving at the same time, and then this here where they're moving in opposite positions, right? Now we're kind of getting this chasing motion that's even tighter, so it's going to be like boom, boom, and down, boom, boom, and down, boom, 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 boom. You can almost think of when this is almost done, being in front, the other one comes and follows, but it's following much closer than when waiting for this to come in the back, where it's almost a mirror of each other. So again, instead of hands like this, hands are more like this chasing each other. Hands are more like this chasing each other, as opposed to like this chasing each other, right? This will be a different feel than this. And we're going for this now. So, chase, chase. So now what we're going to do, we're going to do the same time swing again, but as we do the same time swing, you're going to think about this. Speed up the left hand. Speed up the hand that's about to move. Make it a little bit faster and then make the other one chase it. So it's going to be a little bit different now. So, boom, here, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the hand roll. Hand roll, wait to do the hand roll on the back of your hand too. That will help. So basically what we're going to do is hand roll, hand roll, hand roll, hand roll. So now you're thinking of making 4 hand rolls that are very close together. So we're going back to this. When we do the hand roll, swing the arm out really hard while this is hand rolling the back. So we're going to go hand roll. While this hand rolls, this is hand rolling in the back, right? And then what's going to happen is this is going to swing to the back, this is going to hand roll in the front, and this is going to hand roll to the back, down. And that's going to be the motion. So if we're going to this again, you know how we just do the hand rolls and we bring it over this way? Now we're offsetting it. So every single hand roll is slightly different. So hand roll, right? The left goes first, left, right, but it's very fluid. It's very 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm sorry, this is kind of difficult to describe it. Left, right, swing it over, left, right. So in one motion, now you have like this chasing thing that happens, right? It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different than if we went like this, where we're having like this chasing that's happening here. They're a little bit too far apart for this one to have the same effect as this. And the cool thing is once we get this type of motion where they're chasing each other a little bit closely, then what you do, chase, chase, right? Get the hands to the back, so we do that back roll, and then all we're going to do is we're going to take that 90-degree step like we've been doing, tuck it behind our hips, turn around, and then go back into it again, do the exact same thing. So in some ways it's the same time, and in some ways like the stepping has to happen simultaneously. So left, okay? It's going to be left in the front, right in the back. We spin it around, right? We're going to almost take a step here as we're doing the hand roll here. We're going to do that left in the back, right in the front, dip, dip, and then we're back. Left, right, take that step, right, and then roll it over. So left, right, and taking your steps. So left, right, step. And then you have that nice little motion there. So you have same direction with the hand rolls, whoosh, right? Then we have split direction with hand rolls, which looks more like this. And then we have chasing hand rolls, which look more like this. And then we have stepping hand rolls. And then you have all different kinds of other things, like I said, because if you know how to reverse it, then you can even spin and do reverses with that. So then you could be like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All kinds of extra things. And since they're going same direction, you can turn it into a 3-beat weave anytime just by turning to the left. So here, we get our hand rolls. And the moment our hands are both 2 front grips, cross arms, 3-beat weaves. Want to go back? Add an extra beat, so you're basically going out to crank mode here. dropping it back. Crank mode is where the chucks aren't touching. You're making 2 circular spins to break them apart and get your timing back. So you're here, crank mode just for a second, drop to the hips, and we're back out. Rah. 3 beats. Here, chase it, together, without the hand rolls. Other way, chasing it. You can extend your arms if you want. And add all kinds of extra sweet stuff. Nice 30-minute tutorial almost, but it's okay. It's been a while since I've given you a long tutorial. This is pretty in-depth. There's a lot of great stuff. Also, again, I want to thank all the Patreon donors, and thank you all for your patience. I've been doing a little bit more gigs and stuff. Trying to still work towards a few things with regards to monthly featured artists. It's just been a little bit busy, but I hope that this video helps. Message me if you need anything, and as always, thank you all so much. It's been over 10 years that we've been doing this now, so it's just great. It's just great to keep doing this stuff. So anyways, hope you all have a good one, and let me know what y'all think.